and I thought I could keep you safe in the dark. If you let me in, maybe we can find our way, she breathed, their foreheads touching, intimacy blossoming like spring after a long winter. With a sharp intake of breath, Yadiel's unresolved fear collided with his yearning. I won't lose you, he declared, a promise heavy with determination. And in that suspended moment, filled with the warmth of their bodies, they both knew they were ready to embrace their truth, whatever the cost. Beyond the chaos, amid the noise of their lives, a single thought resonated with clarity. Love flourished, not despite the darkness, but because of it. Scene 64, the final countdown. Yadiel Sinclair's fingers tapped a restless rhythm on the polished oak conference table, echoing through the modest, dimly lit room. The muted glow from the antique lamps pooled soft light on blueprints sprawled out before him. Beatrix Caldwell leaned in closer, an electric tension humming in the air between them. Her dark curls cascaded over her shoulder, just barely hiding the fierce determination in her eyes. Are we really prepared for this? Beatrix asked, her voice steady but edged with urgency. She caught his gaze, the weight of her question lingering in the space. Yadiel's jaw tightened as he assessed her, the glimmer of candor in her eyes igniting something deep within him. Prepared is a relative term. He leaned back, folding his arms across his chest, a defensive gesture. Nothing about this is safe. Beatrix inhaled sharply, eyes narrowing. She was used to veils of protection, but the stakes he faced were unlike any she had ever encountered. And what do we do when it all crumbles? The vulnerability laced in her tone was startling, a rare crack in her otherwise assertive demeanor. His heartbeat raced at her admission, yet he masked it with a pale smile, cocking an eyebrow. You start again. Besides, it's not crumbling if I have you by my side. A flicker of amusement ignited her, washing over the tension like sunlight through clouds. Flattering, but I rather doubt you'd find me useful if it goes south. Her lips quirked, and for a heartbeat the air lightened. Do you ever listen to yourself? Yadiel challenged, amusement turning into concern. You'd survive where others wouldn't. He straightened, narrowing the space between them, the air thickening with unspoken allure as he spoke. Beatrix slipped her hand over the blueprints, instinctively leaning closer to him. Trust me, I have my methods. The weight of their urgency pressed against her chest, yet the desire churned, an intoxicating blend. But this feels too precarious, even for us. Your methods might just be what saves us, he replied, allowing an uncharacteristic smile to break through, revealing the spark of confidence that flickered within. The warmth of his proximity sent a delicious shiver through her. It was more than mere attraction. It was an undeniable connection shaped by their challenges and fears. Outside the room, shuffles echoed, voices raised like distant war drums, weaving through the impending storm they faced. Beatrix's brow furrowed as she glanced toward the door. We don't have much time, she urged, her fingers brushing against his as she pulled away slightly. Yadiel's breath caught, the sense of intimacy seeming to freeze the moment. Then let's make it count. She tilted her head, a playful smirk hinting at her lips. And you want to avoid a brawl, right? That's not usually your style. Would you prefer a dance? He grinned, his eyes twinkling. The juxtaposition of their playful banter and the gravity of their situation made every word heavy with layers of meaning. Not the kind I'm signing up for, she pressed, the lightness tinged with unshakable resolve. Yet in the depths of her gaze lay something deeper, something fierce. A loud crash interrupted them. Chairs scraped, and angry shouts filled the hallway. Yadiel's face hardened, the playful exchange dissolving into the urgent reality of their circumstances. Time's up. We decide now. Then let's do it. Beatrix met his gaze, her heart racing in sync with the storm around them. Together. Yadiel nodded, drawing in a slow breath. The lethal cocktail of adrenaline and emotion surged between them, illuminating a fire that neither wanted to snuff out. She was right. This was their moment, filled with imminent danger yet flecked with promise. On three, he instructed, his voice gravely and commanding, eyes locking onto hers as if they shared a secret language. 1, 2, 3. Beatrix interjected, vitality surging through her in tandem with the chaos brewing outside. The world hung on the precipice of uncertainty, but amid the fury, their connection sparked like a flame, vibrant and unyielding. Let's get to work, Yadiel declared, a hint of eagerness creeping into his tone as they prepared to face the tumultuous battle ahead, hearts beating fiercely in tandem. Scene 65. Fighting for their future. The dimly lit alley twisted like a serpent behind the grand ballroom, echoes of laughter muffled beneath the snapping wind that rattled the nearby shutters. The air, thick with the scent of rain-soaked cobblestones and lingering perfume, sent a chill down Beatrix Caldwell's spine. Raindrops began to fall, delicate at first, then turning into a torrent. Each droplet danced against her skin, merging with the perspiration of dread that coiled in her stomach. Yadiel Sinclair emerged from the shadows, his figure striking against the darkened backdrop, determined yet tormented by the weight of impending doom. Despite the joyful revelry behind them, fear pulsed through the space between them, tangible and electric. "We don't have much time," he said, his voice gravely as it sliced through the night. Beatrix stepped closer, the earth beneath them slick and treacherous. "Then let us make it count." Her eyes sparkled with defiance, daring the storm to swallow them whole. She had battled too long-faced, too many lies to falter now. "No more secrets," Yadiel replied, the words a sharp intake of breath that hung heavy in the air. "You need to trust me completely, or we won't survive this." Thunder rumbled ominously above, echoing the turbulence of her thoughts. Trust was a fragile commodity in their world of deception, teetering precariously atop hidden agendas and dark pasts. "And who do you trust, Yadiel? Can you even trust yourself?" He closed the distance between them, their breaths mingling, the humidity of the storm intensifying the scent of sandalwood lingering around him. "I trust you," he said, urgency threading through each syllable. "You're the only one I can trust." Her heart raced at the sincerity etched in his expression. Yadiel, the crime boss wrapped in shadows, was laid bare before her in that stormy night, stripped of pretense. What if it's not enough? What if? Before she could finish, Yadiel swept forward, capturing her lips with a kiss that radiated heat despite the chilly downpour. It was a fierce amalgam of need and desperation, a plea that transcended words. Raindrops kissed their skin, but it felt as if sparks were igniting between them, as if nothing else mattered in the world but that moment, that connection. Beatrix melted into the kiss, tasting the salt of the rain and the burnt sweetness of fear, burying her hands in his hair. In the eye of the storm, she felt a simmering closeness that pulled them together, and the chaos outside seemed to fade away. The kiss deepened, moves intertwining the boundary between affection and urgency. Yadiel's hands gripped her waist, steadying her against the torrent around them. The world melted, and all that remained was a pulse, a dance between two souls caught in a tempest. But the storm was more than just weather, it was a herald of the conflicts ahead. Reluctantly, Beatrix pulled back, breathless and wild-eyed. "We can't lose sight of why we're here." "Then let's finish this," Yadiel said, the resolve brewing in his tone, igniting a flicker of hope in her chest. Together, their worlds were more than mere solitude-bound existence. Together, they were the force that could push back against the waves crashing around them. Crackling thunder echoed through the alley, shaking loose old fears even as new resolve tightened their grasp on the moment. "I've got your back," Beatrix affirmed, grounding her brow against his, the warmth of his breath mingling in the damp air. With a fierce nod, Yadiel stepped back, scanning the street for any sign of the encroaching danger that had shadowed their every move. "Stay close, and whatever happens, we fight together," Beatrix interjected, the weight of her promise intoxicating. As they moved toward the tangled path of confrontation, she couldn't help but feel a sense of fierce empowerment swell within her. It didn't matter that the night was dark and treacherous. Together, they would carve their own light. "We're not just fighting for now, Yadiel," she said, shooting him a determined look. "This is about our future." And with that, they plunged into the tempest, hearts aflame and fears momentarily forgotten, ready to embrace what lay ahead. Scene 66. The aftermath of war. The air was thick with the scent of gunpowder and smoke, remnants of chaos lingering like ghosts in the twilight. The once vibrant courtyard lay shattered, strewn with debris that murmured tales of the fierce battle they had just endured. A few wooden beams smoldered darkly against the bruised sky, and a distant siren wailed in the background, a reminder of the world they still inhabited, a world of peril and undeniable truth. Beatrix Caldwell pushed a stray lock of hair behind her ear, her fingers trembling slightly as she surveyed the remnants of the fight. Beneath her tailored shirt, she could feel the warmth of her heart racing, not just from the adrenaline, but from the memory of Yadiel's commanding presence in the thick of it all. "What are we going to do now?" she asked, turning her gaze towards him, her voice steady despite the tremor below the surface. Yadiel Sinclair stood a few paces away, his back to her, as he scanned the chaos. His jaw clenched in a reflexive gesture, a fortress of bottled emotions. He turned, a flash of anger and despair in his eyes. "What we need to do is leave this place before it consumes us," he replied, each word laced with a tension that hung heavily between them. "Leave?" Beatrix echoed, her brows knitting together with incredulity. "Running away was never the solution. We just fought tooth and nail to protect what we have, to protect us. If we retreat now, we hand them our future on a silver platter." Yadiel stepped closer, a storm brewing in his gaze. The space between them crackled with unspoken fears, each pulse of energy a testament to the emotions they struggled to voice. "Us?" he spat out, bitterness poisoning the air. "There is no us to protect, Beatrix. You think this charade of yours doesn't complicate matters? You put yourself in danger every day." "I'm not hiding anymore, Yadiel." She took a step forward, summoning a bravery she scarcely felt. "I've fought my whole life to step out of the shadows. I refuse to let fear dictate my choices, especially when." Her voice faltered slightly as she wrestled with the vulnerability of laying her heart bare. "Especially when I have something worth fighting for." His gaze softened briefly, the walls momentarily cracking as a flicker of vulnerability flickered in his intense golden brown eyes. "And what if I lose you?" he asked, the words escaping like a plea, revealing a depth of fear that threatened to unravel him further. "Yadiel, this isn't just about you anymore," she replied, her heart aching for the man before her. "This isn't just business. It's about us navigating a world that wants to keep us apart." A tense silence enveloped them, the remnants of their confrontation hanging like heavy fog. Around them, the remnants of their fallen foes reminded them of the mortal stakes at play, yet they stood firm, unable or perhaps unwilling to retreat. Then Yadiel stepped closer still, the space that had once been a chasm now bridged by a breath. He reached for her shoulder, his fingers warm, and a jolt of electricity sparked between them. "I don't want to lose you," he murmured, his voice low and rich with emotion, like a secret whispered in the dark. Beatrix held his gaze, the weight of the world shifting as unshed tears brimmed at the corners of her eyes. "Then don't push me away," she whispered back, the words hanging in the air as a rallying cry. A slight breeze rustled through the courtyard, bringing with it the scent of blooming jasmine from the nearby garden, mingling with the bitter reminders of violence. Their breaths mingled for a moment, suspended in time as they considered the fragility of their connection in a landscape littered with loss. Yadiel's fingers curled slightly, but he hesitated, caught in the turmoil of his emotions. "What if I'm not strong enough?" he asked, vulnerability mingling with the residual bravado of a crime lord. "You are," Beatrix assured him firmly, stepping deeper into his space, the world around them fading into insignificance against the intensity of their shared gaze. "I believe in you. In us. You have to believe too." A flicker of resolve sparked in his eyes, igniting something fierce inside him. "Then I'll prove it," he vowed, clasping her shoulder with a firm grip that promised both protection and passion. "I'll show you I won't be overshadowed by fear by anything. Let's take the fight to them." The touch ignited a simmering fire, the duality of their spirits intertwined, a fierce echo of the blooming jasmine battling the stench of smoke. In that magnetic moment, Beatrix felt their bond shift from uncertainty to something fiercely resilient. "Together, then," she whispered, a breathless invitation. "Always," Yadiel murmured, and the declaration resonated like a vow, sealing their fates in the electric air. The battle might have subsided, but their war for each other was just beginning. Scene 67, Rebuilding Trust. The smell of freshly ground coffee filled the air, mingling with the faint scent of jasmine from the garden outside. Beatrix stood at the kitchen counter, her fingers deftly sifting through a collection of mismatched teacups. Each delicate cup bore the wear of its own unraveling story, holding the weight of conversations that had danced around love and loss. Today, however, the atmosphere felt heavier, taut with an unspoken tension. Yadiel entered, his footsteps surprisingly soft against the hardwood floor, a contradiction to his imposing presence. He glanced around, his dark eyes lingering on Beatrix, whose back was turned to him. She seemed focused, almost conflicted, as her fingers brushed the porcelain with tenderness. "What's on your mind?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe, his voice smooth yet laced with curiosity. "Just deciding how to serve the truth," Beatrix replied, her half-smile barely reaching her eyes as she slid a cup across the counter to him. "Espresso or a long, winding narrative?" Yadiel arched an eyebrow, taking the cup and savoring the aroma. "How about both? We could blend them together. Give our enemies a taste of our reality, all in one shot." A hint of laughter escaped her lips, an unexpected release of tension that hung thick in the air. "If only it were that easy," she said, her tone shifting to something more serious. "After everything that happened, it feels like we're rebuilding on shaky ground." He took a sip, the rich flavor flooding his senses. It tasted of repair, of hope. "Trust is a fragile thing," he said, setting the cup down with a soft clink that broke the momentary silence. "But it can also be a powerful foundation." Beatrix turned to face him, the sunlight spilling across her features, illuminating her resolve. "What if the cracks don't heal like you want them to? What if the past keeps creeping back?" "That past," he said, frustration inching into his voice, "it didn't just involve you. It seeped into my life in ways I can't escape. I don't want you to bear that weight." Her heart raced at his admission, the barbed edges of his candor cutting through her defenses. "And what about you? You're carrying a bag full of secrets too, Yadiel. You can't keep shutting me out." He stepped closer, the warm scent of his cologne enveloping her like a stolen embrace, his expression grappling with conflicting emotions. "You want me to unveil my fears, my vulnerabilities? I'd be exposing my throat to the very wolves I'm trying to keep away." "Maybe I can help you fend them off," she countered, the strength in her voice surprising herself, "or at least share the burden." Yadiel studied her, a flicker of something deep and raw igniting in his gaze. "You don't know the half of it. It's like reaching for a flame, dancing on the precipice of danger." An unexpected vulnerability flickered in his tone, enough to disarm her simmering resolve. "I'm not afraid of danger, Yadiel. I'm afraid of what I feel when I'm near you." His breath hitched slightly, the air charged between them with an electric intensity. "And what is that exactly?" The unspoken question hovered, a delicate thread pulling them closer. She hesitated, weighing her words as if each syllable held the power to alter their fates. "It's the kind of fear that tells me, I can't afford to lose you." As the words hung in the air, they watched each other, grappling with the weight of unshared breaths. In a fleeting moment, understanding pulsed between them, raw, unrefined, yet undeniably potent. "Maybe," he said softly, "we both have something to lose." Before she could reply, the shatter of glass erupted from the drawing room. They both jolted, adrenaline surging through them as Yadiel's instinct kicked in. "Stay here," he instructed, authority masking the concern etched on his face. "No, I'm not hiding," Beatrix countered, adrenaline mingling with panic as she followed him into the chaos. The world outside their fragile sanctuary was unforgiving, filled with shadows that threatened to engulf them, and yet, within the chaos, a bond began to forge anew. They would not just survive this, they would rise, encased in strength and reliance, and with the shouts and the clatter echoing behind them, at least one truth remained indisputable: they were stronger together. Scene 68. Voices of the Past. The golden light of the late afternoon sun filtered through the stained glass of the Caldwell estate, casting kaleidoscopic patterns across the elegantly cluttered library. Beatrix sat at her cluttered desk, her fingers trembling slightly as they brushed over the parchment in front of her. The ink was still damp from the last line she had painstakingly penned, and yet the weight of her thoughts felt heavier than the stack of uncompleted letters piled beside her. Yadiel stood across the room, folding a crisp white shirt, his brows furrowed as he focused intently on the task. His broad back to her, he moved with an ease that belied the tension brewing in her chest. The rhythmic sound of fabric sliding over fabric occasionally punctuated an all-consuming silence. One might think you're assembling an army instead of packing for a weekend, Beatrix finally said, her tone trying to slice through the quiet. The facade of nonchalance, however, was punctuated with an undercurrent of unease. Yadiel turned slightly, glancing over his shoulder, his eyes narrowing. An army? Perhaps that's what I should call my family. A lot of generals in one house. He chuckled, but it was half-hearted. The corners of his mouth twitched, revealing the small crack in his confidence that only she seemed able to detect. She rose from her seat, the scent of old books and polished wood wrapping around her like a comforting embrace. "You know, I didn't mean it like that," she said softly, stepping closer. There was a depth in her tone that made his gaze linger longer upon her. "I know," he replied, the warmth of his voice filling the space between them, overshadowing the flurry of noise beyond the library doors. "But I've been pretending enough for a lifetime. It's time we faced reality." As he put down the shirt, his face clouded. The moment of levity was gone, replaced by an unspoken recognition of the gravity hanging in the air. Almost instinctively, the atmosphere shifted. They were no longer two people casually bantering, but two souls aligning in an intricate dance, each fearful of where the rhythm might lead. "Reality has a way of creeping up on you, doesn't it?" she said, her voice barely above a whisper, but full of defiance. Her eyes searched his, looking for something understanding, perhaps. "I've spent so long evading my past. I thought maybe for once." "Maybe for once what?" Yadiel pressed, stepping closer. The faintest hint of tension tugged at his brow as he held her gaze, the unambiguous anxiety sinking beneath the surface. Silence filled the space, simmering with potential confessions. She hesitated for just a beat, memories flashing unbidden, a scattering of laughter echoing through dimly lit ballroom corners, the flicker of torches illuminating faces, some tender, others tainted with betrayal. "I thought maybe for once I could allow myself to forget what's behind me." He reached up, brushing a stray curl behind her ear, his fingers lingering on her neck as if to shield her from ghosts of the past. "But forgetting never really works, does it?" "No, it doesn't," Beatrix said, her voice steady, though her heart raced. "Those memories, they're all I've got sometimes." A moment stretched taut like a finely drawn bowstring, vibrating with the promise of unvoiced fears and desires. Yadiel's free hand curled into a fist at his side, as if resisting the urge to grab onto the past she so desperately wanted to escape. "We face them together, then. Whatever haunts you, it doesn't matter," he declared, fierce conviction etching the lines of his face. "I am yours to hold on to." In that instant, she dared to lean closer, her breath mingling with the scent of sandalwood that lingered around him. "And you?" she asked, searching his eyes for answers that might have eluded them both. "What if your past catches up to you?" Yadiel's smile was a mix of tenderness and vulnerability, a rare sight. "Then let it come," he murmured, their faces inches apart now. "I'll face it with you." The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable but charged with anticipation. Beatrix could feel the warmth radiating from him, the palpable energy that made her heart ache and sing all at once. "Then let's not let the past steal this from us," she breathed, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. His lips brushed against hers, a delicate promise, as if sealing their shared resolve in that moment, audacious and tender. As the kiss deepened, a longing born from the frayed edges of their histories mingled together, shaping a new reality. Time melted away, drowning out the cacophony of their lives for that fleeting heartbeat where nothing else mattered, only the whispering vows of souls entwined. They pulled apart, breathless, but there was hope glinting in the air, laughter lurking on the edges of their shared breaths. "We might as well face the music head-on," Beatrix chuckled lightly, wiping the remnant glimmer of care from her eyes. "It can't be worse than a ballroom full of old acquaintances vying for your attention." A soft laugh escaped Yadiel's lips, filling the vast emptiness around them. "And yet, I still choose you above them all." His grin was devil-may-care, a fire rekindled. With that, the shadows of the past grew fainter, and the architecture of their shared agenda began to rise amidst the ruins, gleaming in the golden light of new beginnings. Scene 69, an unexpected reunion. The dim light of the candle flickered against the walls of the lavish ballroom, casting playful shadows that danced like whispered secrets. Beatrix Caldwell watched from the periphery, her heart thundering against the walls of her chest. It wasn't the music that held her captive. It was the palpable tension that twisted around the room like a tightening noose. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration of the Sinclair family's power, yet it felt like an impending storm. A whirl of laughter cut through her reverie, and she turned just in time to catch sight of Yadiel Sinclair. The man cut an imposing figure, tall and cloaked in an aura of authority. His smirk was charming, a mask of confidence, but beneath it lay secrets that weighed heavily on both their shoulders. The world knew him as a crime lord, but here, in the heart of high society, he wore his facade with undeniable grace. "Are you going to stare at him all evening, or join us?" called out Delilah, Beatrix's closest friend, her voice laced with mischief. Dressed in emerald satin, she stirred the energy around them, an undeniable magnet for attention. Beatrix forced a smile, not wanting to reveal the emotional quagmire that churned within her. "Just admiring his mastery of deception," she replied, her lips curving knowingly. "It takes talent to juggle that many masks." "But you're a master of disguise yourself," Delilah winked, nudging Beatrix with her elbow. "What's keeping you from stepping into the spotlight?" Before she could offer a retort, a figure stepped into the room, stealing the laughter from the air like a thief in the night. Beatrix's breath hitched as the unexpected presence merged into her peripheral vision. It was Victor Harrington, an old flame, and a reminder of a past drenched in untapped emotions. His unmistakable smile, radiant and unapologetic, sent waves of nostalgia crashing over her. "Fancy seeing you here, Beatrix," he greeted, his rich baritone wrapping around her like a velvet ribbon. "What a coincidence, Victor. Care to explain the sudden interest in crime lords?" She shot back, her words dripping with sardonic humor. Yet she faltered inwardly, as Victoria's gaze bore into her, igniting memories she'd tried to bury. Before Victor could respond, Yadiel, having noticed the interaction, approached them. The atmosphere shifted, tension thickened palpably, a charge sparking as he locked eyes with Victor. "You owe my family an explanation for your attendance," Yadiel declared, his tone dangerously low, an undercurrent of animosity threading between the men. "Relax, Sinclair. Just a visitor, admiring the show," Victor replied, holding his hands up in mock surrender. Delilah's eyes darted between the three of them, intrigued but wary. "I don't think we came for a discussion, did we?" she interjected, her smile fading as she sensed the brewing conflict. Beatrix stepped closer to Yadiel, feeling both emboldened and terrified. "We did come for a celebration, after all," she said lightly, attempting to ease the atmosphere. The music swelled, and she leaned in, her shoulder brushing against Yadiel's arm, a gesture laden with unspoken solidarity. "Ah, but you see," Victor countered smoothly, "this is more than mere celebration. It's an opportunity for truths to unfold." His gaze shifted meaningfully toward Beatrix, who felt her pulse quicken. Yadiel's jaw tightened, the silence radiating between them, thick with unresolved tension. "Some truths are best left hidden," he said, each word edged with understated ferocity. Beatrix's gaze flitted between the two men, rivalry emanating from every angle. And in that charged moment, the air grew heavier with emotions long brushed aside. She could not ignore the flicker of yearning that throbbed within her chest, battling with the warmth of Yadiel's presence beside her. "Let's keep the past buried where it belongs," Beatrix attempted, her voice barely more than a whisper. The atmosphere shifted again, a swell of understanding bridging the distance between them. Yadiel's eyes softened, searching Beatrix's face for a sign, a glimmer of hope that whispered of shared futures amid the chaos. "Best of luck either way," Victor said, almost triumphantly, retreating into the throng of revelers, his presence a reminder of what once was. In that heartbeat of silence that followed, Beatrix turned toward Yadiel, her emotions spilling around them like the fragrant bouquet of roses lining the room. "It seems the past has a way of catching up with us." Yadiel's eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment the world faded, leaving only the two of them, connected by unspoken fears and desires. "Sometimes it's not the past we need to confront, but the choices before us." As his words hung in the air between them, she felt the breath of possibility. The weight of the moment pressed down on her, urgent and electric, painting their night with anticipation and a hint of danger. Scene 70. The strength of connection. The sprawling mansion, cloaked in whispers and secrets, stood illuminated against the velvety evening sky. Delicate lace curtains fluttered in the warm breeze, carrying with them the faint scent of jasmine and the thrill of impending danger. Beatrix Caldwell, wearing a tailored suit that masked her femininity, moved quietly through the candlelit hallway. Each step echoed softly, barely audible beneath the wild thrum of her heart. In the shadows, Yadiel Sinclair leaned against a gilded mirror, his posture exuding a tension that belied his composed exterior. The air between them crackled with an unspoken intensity, an electric current woven from shared fears and uncharted desires. Around them, members of Yadiel's inner circle reveled in the false security of their surroundings, unaware that beneath the surface a tempest brewed. Beatrix, Yadiel's voice cut through the room like a blade. Soft yet commanding, it was a reminder of the spaces they'd traversed together, of each battle fought, every wound exposed. You should leave now. She paused, casting him a searching glance. You know I can't just walk away, not when things are about to go awry. He sighed, his frustration simmering just below the surface. You need to understand that this isn't a game. People will get hurt. I can't protect you. Her eyes pinned him with a resolute clarity. I don't need your protection, Yadiel. I'm more than capable of handling my own battles. Their banter erupted into a deep silence, each caught in their reflections. The weight of unspoken truths hung palpably in the air. The room seemed to shrink around them, the laughter of their comrades fading into a distant echo. Do you ever think about what's going to happen? Yadiel's voice softened, revealing a rare vulnerability as he pushed away from the mirror. When all this is over? You mean if it ever is? She didn't shy from his gaze, willing him to see her resolve. It's not the ending that matters. It's the fight we put up together. Yadiel stepped closer, the space between them charged with an intoxicating blend of tension and yearning. Together, he echoed, testing the word on his tongue, searching for the depth of what they shared. In one sweeping motion, Beatrix closed the distance, her hand grazing his forearm. Yes, together, she insisted, her voice steady. I will not run away, not from you, not from this life. An unexpected smile broke across his face, a brief flicker of hope amidst the chaos. You're incredibly stubborn, you know that? Stubbornness has gotten me very far, she replied, a teasing inflection slipping into her tone. Yet the laughter in her eyes masked something deeper, an urgency, a connection sharper than any blade. Just then, the door burst open, and a frazzled Jade, Yadiel's younger sister, stumbled into the room, her eyes wide. They're coming, she gasped, her breaths quickening. Yadiel's instincts kicked in. Get everyone to safety, now! He barked, before his gaze swept back to Beatrix, the gravity of the moment crashing around them. Without another thought, he cupped her face with a hand, a soft, tender touch that felt like a promise cloaked in peril. We'll get through this, he murmured, his breath mingling with hers, igniting a flame that flickered between what was and what could never be within their volatile world. What if it's never normal again? Beatrix whispered, her own fears threatening to spill over. Then we'll redefine it, he stated, his conviction steady as steel, and we'll do it together. In that moment, the world outside their cocoon faded entirely. All that mattered was the strength of their connection, the fiery intensity blossoming in the uncertain shadows of the room. Just as the first rumble of chaos broke through the mansion's defenses, Beatrix leaned in, her lips meeting his in a heated collision, a vow forged in desperation and devotion. The kiss was an anchor, a desperate plea that transcended all boundaries. Their lips parted barely an inch, a shared breath lingering in the air. So, together? She challenged, her eyes sparkling with defiance. Yadiel's gaze held hers, unwavering. Always. And with that, they turned toward the storm brewing beyond the sanctuary of their desires, ready to face whatever lay ahead, united in defiance, bound by love. Scene 71. The road ahead. The opulent ballroom shimmered under a canopy of frosted crystals and gilded arches. The remnants of last night's lavish festivities still lingered in the air, the faint scent of rich chocolates and floral arrangements mixed with the slightly acrid hint of spilled whiskey. The daylight flooded the grand space, its harshness contrasting sharply with the intimacy of last evening's twinkling candlelight. Outside, the sky was wreathed in dark-combed clouds, the threat of rain looming, echoing the tumult within Yadiel Sinclair's heart. He stood by the arched windows, gaze drifting over the sprawling city that stretched beyond the glass. Shadows danced in his chestnut eyes, wisps of uncertainty hidden beneath the authoritative exterior. The striking figure of Beatrix Caldwell stirred behind him, her presence commanding yet adrift. Her vibrant silk waistcoat, taut against her resilient frame, radiated confidence, yet the line of her mouth hinted at unspoken fears. "Let's not pretend we have all the time in the world," Yadiel said, turning to face her. His voice was deep, heavy with unfulfilled promises. "This storm, it's more than just weather." Beatrix stepped closer, her heartbeat thrumming in tune with the approaching thunder. "You're right. The tension between us is palpable, much like that rain." Her bravado flared for a moment, a bright spark in the heavy air. "Yet we also have objectives. We can't let our past dictate our future." "Objectives," he echoed, a smirk tracing his lips, though his eyes remained serious. "Or perhaps distractions." "Distractions can still lead to clarity." Beatrix crossed her arms and feigned an indifference that was slowly unraveling in the haze of their charged connection. "I'm not one for cowardice, Yadiel." "I admire your spirit," he replied, the heat of their conversation igniting something deeper within them, a blend of urgency and longing that tethered them together. "But we must navigate carefully. We have enemies, and they are not idle." The air crackled as their eyes locked, an electric pulse of tension thickened between their bodies. Yadiel took a step forward, closing the distance, his breath mingling with hers. "Every decision we make has weight enough to crush us both. Or lift us higher than we've ever been," Beatrix murmured, her voice turning breathy under his scrutinizing gaze. She reached out, her fingers lightly brushing against the warmth of his sleeve. "But every path to greatness is riddled with risk, and I'm not afraid to face it." "Neither am I," he countered, uncrossing his arms, allowing her to feel the depth of his resolve. As he loomed closer, the room faded into mere backdrop noise, their words becoming thunderous in the silence surrounding them. "But there's an even greater danger in being tethered to me." "What's one more danger?" Beatrix tilted her chin defiantly, her lips curving with temptation. "In a world where shadows linger, what's the point of following the rules?" Carnal heat flared as he swallowed hard, every muscle in him coiling with restraint. Beneath Beatrix's fiery confidence lay a vulnerability that pulled at him, drawing him fiercely to the unknown. "Then embrace the storm we are," Yadiel whispered, and the subtle shift spoke volumes. A raindrop struck the window, echoing the cadence of their hearts. He closed the few inches that divided them, the air crackling with uncharted energy. With a heartbeat teetering on the edge of certainty, he tilted her chin upward, his thumb brushing her cheek, initiating the unthinkable, an unquenchable kiss. Beatrix responded like a captive flame, letting go of her defenses as their lips met, mingling sweetness with an urgency that tasted of defiance. Time suspended in that moment, the world obscured by a veil of longing and desperation. Shivers coursed down her spine as their mouths moved in silent agreement. Every hesitation swept away in the cascade of unfiltered passion. As thunder rumbled nearby, their kiss deepened, moving from a gentle graze to an impassioned embrace. They anchored each other against the storm, against the reality that awaited outside. Eventually, they pulled apart, breathless yet entwined in their resolve. Yadiel gazed intently into her eyes, his voice a husky whisper. "Whatever comes next, we will face it together." "Together," Beatrix reaffirmed, her heart resonating with a new sense of purpose as the storm outside began to break. The rain fell in torrents, blurring the lines of their immediate world, a fresh start cascading through their lives. Scene 72. The Power of Forgiveness. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a soft orange glow over the sprawling estate of the Sinclair family, its once pristine gardens now overgrown with wildflowers that danced in the gentle wind, creating an almost ethereal backdrop for the emotional turmoil unfolding within its walls. The air was thick with the scent of blooming jasmine, mingling with the distant sounds of laughter from Yadiel's close associates, enjoying a rare respite from their otherwise chaotic lives. Beatrix stood in the opulent library, the scent of aged leather and polished mahogany surrounding her like a comforting embrace. She turned her gaze out the window, watching the shadows stretch across the manicured lawns, the intricate lattice of light and dark, a reflection of her own tangled emotions. She wanted to talk to Yadiel, to bridge the chasm created by their hidden truths and betrayals, but fear clung to her like the humidity in the air, suffocating and relentless. She took a deep breath, pushing away the insecurities that haunted her, when the door creaked open. Yadiel stepped inside, his dark eyes scanning her face, seeking the hidden depths she concealed. His presence filled the room with an electric tension, and for a heartbeat they remained locked in an unspoken battle of wills. "Are you avoiding me, Beatrix?" he asked, his voice a low rumble, akin to the distant thunder that threatened rain. "And no," she stammered, the playful banter they had previously enjoyed now overshadowed by the weight of their confessions yet to come. "I was pondering." "Is that what you call it?" His smirk had an edge, one that unnerved her and thrilled her all at once. "You were escaping." "Perhaps I don't want to be trapped in a conversation about us?" he interrupted, stepping closer, the space between them charged with unexpressed longing. "Yes," she whispered, a vulnerability creeping into her tone, folding her arms as if shielding herself from the truth. "Everybody has something they're hiding, Yadiel. I don't think I can afford to be exposed too." "I know secrets," he replied, his voice dropping as if sharing a confidence. "But I won't expose you. I don't want to be just another man that hurts you." Beatrix shifted her weight, the lush carpet beneath her feet suddenly feeling like a cage. "But what if by hiding, I only end up hurting you instead?" Yadiel took her hand, gently prying her fingers loose, holding them as if they were made of glass. "You're not capable of hurting anyone, Beatrix. You question everything, challenge norms. You shine too bright for that." A gust of wind brushed through the slightly ajar window, rustling the pages of a nearby book, reminding them both that the world outside was chaotic, just like their hearts. "Maybe we're both damage control," Beatrix said, sadness creeping into her words. "Or maybe we're just stubborn enough to find a way to forgive," he replied, his expression softening as he gazed into her eyes, searching for a companionable truth. The chemistry between them surged like electricity, crackling in the air as a low rumble of thunder echoed in the distance. Underneath the surface of their interactions lay a deep yearning, an ache for connection despite both their histories. "Do you think we can forgive ourselves?" she asked, her voice a mere whisper, tinged with hope. He stepped closer, his fingers brushing against her cheek in a gentle touch. "We can try. Forgiveness can be a trigger, a release." She leaned into his palm, the warmth of his skin igniting a fire in her belly, leaves rustling in the brewing storm outside. Yadiel lowered his head, the air charged with anticipation. "But we can't do it alone." Their foreheads touched, breaths mingling as a lightning flash illuminated the room for a scintillating moment, framing them in a world built only for the two of them. "So we share our scars?" she suggested, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes," he murmured, the words echoing between them like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. Together. As the world outside darkened, the tension thickened, pulsing with life. Beatrix felt every moment stretch, every heartbeat align with a silent understanding. And in the sweetness of that suspended time, their lips met tenderly at first, then deeper, as if they were two halves of a whole that had finally found its way back together. The storm broke free, rain pattering against the panes like an orchestra accompanying their crescendo of emotion. Time blurred, wrapping them in a cocoon of warmth and forgiveness that promised to be more resilient than the shadows of their pasts. "Together," she breathed against his lips, as everything else faded away into a world painted in shades of possibility. Scene 73. The balance of power. The heavy rain drummed against the cobblestone streets outside the dimly lit tavern, creating a sonic backdrop that matched the tempest brewing within its smoke-filled walls. Beatrix leaned against the bar, her fingers fiddling with a vintage pocket watch, the intricate engravings catching the flickering candlelight. "Why did you even bring me here if you weren't planning to reveal your thoughts?" she asked, a teasing lilt in her tone, masking the serious question lingering beneath. Yadiel leaned closer, the warmth of his presence radiating like the gilded glow around them. "It's not that simple, Beatrix. You know this world thrives on expectation and proximity." She raised an eyebrow, her lips curving slightly. "And what exactly do you expect of me, Yadiel? To cower in the shadows while you navigate these treacherous waters alone? Rain splattered against the window beside them, a drumming that mirrored the frantic pulse of her heart. Yadiel's eyes, dark and stormy, bore into hers, igniting a fierce energy that sent tingles down her spine. I don't expect you to cower, but this isn't just about us. From a nearby table, a group of men laughed, their raucous voices spilling into the air like broken glass. Beatrix's gaze flickered towards them for a moment, the weight of their unspoken judgment thickening the air around her. "Then what is it about?" she asked, her voice low yet resolved. Yadiel pushed his glass aside, the faint clink of crystal striking the wooden surface almost drowning in the ambient noise. "It's about power. Control. You pretending to be someone you're not puts us both in danger." "I'm not afraid of danger," she shot back, emboldened by his intensity. "In that case," he said, leaning even closer, "you should know how quickly the balance can shift in this world. One slip, and we'd both be crushed beneath the weight of it." The atmosphere shifted subtly, the tension between them thickening like syrup. She could feel the air shimmering with suppressed possibilities, an electric charge that magnetized them together. "I think you underestimate my ability to navigate chaos, Yadiel," she said, her voice a purring whisper amidst the rising storm. The corner of his mouth twitched, battling the shadows of his usual stoicism. "Maybe I need to allow you to show me just how fearless you are." With that, he brushed aside the space between them, the invisible barrier of doubt evaporating like fog in warm sunlight. Beatrix's breath hitched, and for a moment, every nervous thought faded into the background, leaving just the two of them cocooned in shared breath and unabashed curiosity. Outside, the rain intensified, echoing the wildfire of emotions engendered in the intimacy of their closeness. The reality of their lives, the stakes and deceit surrounding them, clashed violently with the magnetic pull urging them to surrender to each other. "Yadiel," her voice faltered, the flicker of vulnerability breaking through her defenses as Yadiel raised a hand to cup her cheek. His touch was gentle, grounding yet electrifying, hinting at both despair and desire. "What's in a name, Beatrix?" He mused, something bittersweet dancing in his expression. "In this life, we redefine what it means to belong, to connect. But does love come with the price of anonymity?" "Maybe anonymity is what makes it worth fighting for," she countered boldly, leaning into him, their foreheads nearly touching, a tantalizing thread between them. A flash of lightning illuminated the room through the window, momentarily revealing the silhouettes of their troubled souls. In that fleeting glimpse, the longing in his gaze deepened, mingling with the unspoken fears both carried of loss, vulnerability, and the uncharted territories of love. Yadiel's voice was low, saturated with sincerity. "But we're running out of time to find that fight, Beatrix. Decisions linger like live coals in the darkness." "Let's fan the flames, then," she replied with a soft smile that belied the ferocity beneath. The world outside continued to rage, but within the tavern's heat, a potent alliance forged itself in shadow and light, one that had the power to change everything. "Together," he whispered, hope flickering in his voice, a tentative but palpable plea. "Together," she affirmed, her heart racing as they stood poised on the precipice of a world ready to unfold, ready for the fire they would create. Scene 74, The Heart's Desires. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm, golden light over the expansive garden of Yadiel Sinclair's estate. Bees buzzed cheerfully among the sunflowers, their vibrant heads bobbing gently in the soft breeze. Beatrix Caldwell, dressed in her usual disguise as a dapper young gentleman, adjusted her cravat with a focused frown, a subtle attempt to conceal the knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. She was acutely aware of every rustle of fabric, every whisper of the wind, as if the universe was an audience to her conflicted emotions. "Why do you look like you're about to duel a dozen men, Beatrix?" Yadiel's voice, deep and velvety, pulled her from her troubled thoughts. He stood a few paces behind her, arms crossed, capturing the light with the elegance of a predator surveying its territory. Despite the hint of teasing in his tone, his gaze held a weight that made her heart leap and plummet in equal measure. Swallowing hard, Beatrix turned to face him, trying to maintain the nonchalance expected of a man in her disguise. "Just preparing myself for the business at hand," she replied, attempting to keep her voice steady, though it trembled slightly like the leaves overhead. Business. Or are you just terrified of what you might find today? His smirk was both maddening and irresistible, igniting a flicker of bravado within her. With a huff, she replied, perhaps both, but the tension between them was electric, charged with the weight of unspoken truths, the truth of who they were and who they couldn't be. The moment hung in the air, thick with unsaid words and lingering glances. Beatrix took a hesitant step forward, her heart racing. What if this facade doesn't hold anymore? What if someone discovers? Then we adapt, as we always do. His cadence softened, the teasing facade slipping just a fraction. There was a vulnerability in his eyes, and for a moment, the hardened exterior of the crime lord gave way to something more tender, more human. Beatrix, you need to trust me. The way he said her name, soft, reverent, sent a shiver down her spine. She found herself drawn toward him, magnetized by his presence. Trust in you is a dangerous game, Yadiel, one I may not be prepared to play. In response, Yadiel stepped closer, invading the space between them with purpose, the heat radiating off him, both comforting and intimidating. Dangerous or exhilarating? His eyes held a mischievous glimmer, one that reminded her of the way dusk danced upon the horizon before surrendering to night. Perhaps I love a challenge, she said softly, almost wistfully. Then let's rise to it together. The softness of his voice, combined with the steel in his gaze, deepened the gravity of the moment. Slowly, he reached out, his fingers brushing against hers in a gesture that set off a cascade of sensations. The warmth, the thrill, the undeniable chemistry that crackled like fireworks between them. Beatrix inhaled sharply, her mind swirling with 1,000 thoughts, each more chaotic than the last. This connection, this unyielding attraction, was a loaded weapon, and every moment they lingered in this unfinished space made her heart race. Yadiel, she began, but words failed her as their gazes locked, an unspoken language swirling around them.